The first time I joked that my neighbor needed a husband, I expected an eye roll, maybe even a laugh. Instead, she looked at me with tired eyes that carried more pain than anyone should hide, slipped an old brass key into my palm, and whispered just 4 words that changed my life forever. Start tonight. I stood frozen on that quiet street in Cedar Falls, Iowa, staring at the key while wondering what I had just agreed to. I had no idea that behind the cheerful front porch and carefully trimmed flowers was a story of heartbreak, sacrifice, and hope waiting for someone to notice before it was too late. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and helping others can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. My name is Nathan, and I had lived on Maple Avenue for nearly 4 years. It was one of those peaceful American neighborhoods where everyone waved politely but rarely knew what was happening behind closed doors. My neighbor, Rachel, had moved into the small white house across from mine about 18 months earlier. She was friendly but distant, always smiling just enough to keep conversations short. Every morning she left before sunrise, and every evening she returned long after dark carrying grocery bags, laundry, or medical supplies. There was always something heavy in her hands, but somehow the heaviest burden was the one no one could see. The joke happened on an ordinary Saturday afternoon while we were both pulling weeds near the sidewalk. I laughed and told her that with all the work she did, she clearly needed a husband to help around the house. I expected a clever comeback. Instead, her smile disappeared. She reached into her pocket, placed the key in my hand, leaned closer, and quietly told me to start tonight. Then she walked back inside before I could ask what she meant. For the rest of the day, that key burned like a question in my pocket. Around 7 that evening, curiosity finally overcame hesitation. I crossed the street and unlocked her front door. The house looked perfectly normal at first. Everything was neat, clean, and carefully organized. Then I heard a faint cough from the hallway. Following the sound, I found a small bedroom where an elderly man rested in a hospital bed beside a humming oxygen machine. Family photographs covered the walls. Medical equipment filled every corner. The old man looked toward me with gentle eyes and smiled as though he had been expecting someone. Only minutes later Rachel came home carrying several grocery bags. She looked exhausted, yet there was relief on her face when she saw me sitting beside her father, helping him drink a glass of water. She admitted that she hadn't needed a husband. She had simply needed another pair of hands. Her father, Harold, had suffered a severe stroke 2 years earlier, leaving him unable to care for himself. Insurance covered almost nothing. Professional caregivers were far beyond what she could afford. She worked 2 jobs during the day, delivered food late into the evening, and spent every remaining hour caring for him alone. That night I stayed for only an hour, but something inside me refused to leave unchanged. I returned the next evening. Then the evening after that. Soon it became routine. I mowed the lawn, repaired leaking faucets, changed light bulbs, cooked simple dinners, and sat beside Harold while Rachel worked. The more time I spent in that little house, the more I realized how lonely they both had become. Rachel never complained. She simply carried responsibilities that would have broken many people. Harold apologized constantly for being a burden, though anyone could see he had once been a hard-working father who had sacrificed everything for his daughter. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, laughter returned to the house. We celebrated small victories, like Harold managing to lift his hand a little higher during physical therapy or Rachel actually sitting down to eat a hot meal before midnight. Those moments seemed tiny to outsiders, but inside that home they felt like miracles. One rainy evening, while organizing old boxes in the garage, I discovered dozens of unopened envelopes. They were overdue medical bills. Some were months old. Others carried final collection notices. Rachel quietly admitted she had stopped opening them because she simply couldn't face another reminder of money she didn't have. I understood then why she worked herself beyond exhaustion. She wasn't chasing success. She was trying to buy one more month for the man who had spent his entire life protecting her. The neighborhood slowly noticed the changes. Instead of gossiping, people began helping. Mrs. Cooper from 2 houses down brought homemade casseroles every Tuesday. A retired electrician fixed dangerous wiring for free. Teenagers volunteered to shovel snow in winter. A local church organized volunteers to sit with Harold while Rachel finally got a full night's sleep for the first time in over a year. It reminded me that kindness often spreads quietly. One person chooses compassion, and suddenly an entire community remembers what it means to care. Still, life wasn't finished testing us. Late one December night, Harold suffered another medical emergency. Rachel called me in tears, and within minutes we were racing toward Mercy General Hospital through heavy snow. Doctors worked for hours before telling us there was little more modern medicine could do. The next few days would be critical. Those were the longest days of my life. Rachel barely left her father's bedside. She looked smaller somehow, as though carrying grief before it had even arrived. I stayed beside her, bringing coffee she forgot to drink and reminding her to eat whenever she remembered everyone else's needs except her own. On Christmas Eve, something unexpected happened. Harold opened his eyes, reached weakly toward Rachel's hand, then looked at me. Tears filled his eyes as he smiled. Though his voice was barely a whisper, he managed to say that he had prayed every night that his daughter would never have to face life alone after he was gone. Then he thanked God for answering that prayer before closing his eyes to rest again. He passed away peacefully the following morning with Rachel holding one hand and me holding the other. Grief settled over the house like winter fog. Every room echoed with memories. Rachel struggled not only with losing her father but also with wondering who she was now that caregiving had consumed her entire identity for years. Healing came slowly. We planted Harold's favorite roses in the front yard that spring. Every bloom felt like a reminder that love never truly disappears. It simply changes form. Months later, while cleaning the attic, Rachel found a letter her father had written before his stroke. Inside, he thanked her for sacrificing so much but begged her not to spend the rest of her life trapped by grief or responsibility. He wanted her to laugh again, travel again, dream again, and open her heart whenever love found its way back. Neither of us spoke for several minutes after reading those words. Life gradually became brighter. Rachel reduced her work hours and accepted a better position at a nonprofit organization helping families care for aging parents. Her painful experience became a source of comfort for countless others facing similar struggles. As for me, I discovered that the greatest moments in life rarely arrive through grand plans. They begin with small decisions. Knocking on a neighbor's door. Carrying someone else's groceries. Listening when another person quietly says they need help. Exactly 1 year after she handed me that brass key, I stood on the same front porch where everything had begun. This time I held out a different small box. Inside rested a simple engagement ring. Rachel smiled through tears before saying yes. The old brass key still hangs beside our front door today. It no longer unlocks just a house. It reminds us that sometimes people don't ask for rescue because they need saving. They ask because they simply cannot carry everything alone anymore. The strongest people often hide the deepest pain behind the warmest smiles. All they need is one person willing to notice. If this story has touched your heart in any way, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in compassion, subscribe for more inspiring stories, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps these stories reach more people who may need hope today. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness opens doors," if you believe one small act of compassion can completely change someone's life. Sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with romance. They begin with a simple key placed into an open hand, a quiet request for help, and one ordinary person choosing to walk through a door that everyone else had overlooked. And that single choice can transform not only one life, but many others forever.